You have eaten their food thousands of times. You have fed it to your children. You have given it to your dog. You have bought it at every gas station, in every airport, in every country you have ever been to. You cannot name a single member of the family who owns it. That is not an accident. That is the strategy. There are roughly 24 living heirs to the largest privately held food empire in the world. They control M&ms, Snickers, Milky Way, Twix, Skittles, Starburst, Three Musketeers, Wrigley's, Orbit, Juicy Fruit, Pedigree, Whiskas, Royal Canin, m&ms, Uncle Ben's Rice. They own 1 out of every 10 veterinarians in America. In 1882, in a small town in Minnesota, a boy named Franklin Clarence Mars was born with a body that didn't quite work. His mother taught him to hand-dip chocolates at the kitchen table. It was the only trade he could manage. He grew up. He married. He failed at the candy business once. He failed at it twice. His marriage collapsed. His ex-wife took their only son, a 6-year-old boy named Forrest, and sent him 1,100 miles north to live with her parents on the cold prairie of Saskatchewan, Canada. For the next 12 years, the boy barely saw his father. What he saw instead was the absence of him. The unanswered letters, the missed birthdays, the hunger of being the son of a man who could not afford to send money. In 1911, Frank Mars tried again. He started a small candy company in Tacoma, Washington. By 1920, he was in Minneapolis, hand-dipping buttercreams in a rented kitchen. In 1923, the son came back. Forrest Mars was 19 years old, brilliant, furious, and ambitious in a way his father was not. He sat down with his father at a soda fountain and suggested a candy bar based on the taste of a malted milkshake. His father took the suggestion. They called it the Milky Way. It became the best-selling candy bar in America. For 9 years, father and son worked together. They built Snickers in 1930. They built Three Musketeers in 1932. Then they had the fight that would change everything. The argument was about the future. Forrest wanted to take the company to Europe. His father refused. So Frank Mars did to his son what had been done to him as a child. He sent him away. Forrest received a $50,000 check, the foreign rights to the Milky Way bar, and an instruction to leave. He boarded a ship to England. He rented a small factory in the industrial town of Slough, just outside London. He bought second-hand machinery. He hired 4 people. In that factory, in 1932, he invented the Mars bar. 4 years later, he invented Maltesers. He bought a British dog food company because the market was uncontested. It would one day become Pedigree. In 1934, his father died of heart failure at age 50. Forrest, in England, was not invited to the funeral. The company passed to his stepmother and her relatives, who had no intention of letting him near it. So he kept building. In 1939, in the Spanish Civil War, Forrest watched soldiers eating small chocolate pellets coated in a hard candy shell. The chocolate did not melt in their hands. He understood instantly what he was looking at. In 1941, in partnership with the son of the president of Hershey's, he patented a candy he called M&ms. The two M's stood for Mars and Murray. The U.S. military made it the standard chocolate ration of the Second World War. Every American soldier in Europe carried them. By the end of the war, M&Ms were inside a generation of returning veterans. Forrest Mars had become one of the wealthiest men in America without ever speaking publicly about it. It would take him another 19 years to take back his father's company. He finally did in 1964, in a long, slow, brutal corporate maneuver. He merged it with his own. He named the result Mars Incorporated. He had been exiled at 28. He returned at 60. What he built next was something stranger than a company. In 1966, Forrest Mars Sr. gave a single interview to a small trade magazine called Candy Industry. He felt the reporter had quoted him incorrectly. He never spoke to the press again. He kept that vow for 33 years until the day he died. He turned silence into a corporate policy. Mars Incorporated would not publish financial accounts. It would not announce executive changes. It would not confirm family deaths. Employees were taught not to speak of the founders by name. A magazine called Washingtonian would later describe the family's relationship to privacy in one sentence. It was, they wrote, a religion. The children inherited it whole: Forrest Jr., John, Jacqueline. They were sent to elite boarding schools and made to do household chores for an allowance. They were taught never to be photographed if they could help it. They were taught that fame was a leak in the hull, and a leak in the hull would sink the ship. The daughter, Jacqueline, once stormed away from a dinner party upon learning she had been seated next to Malcolm Forbes. Forbes magazine had ranked her family's wealth. To her, that was an act of war. The son, John, at the age of 60, shouted at his 90-year-old father, "How long do I have to work for you, Dad?" It was not a joke. The family ran the company for another generation, then quietly handed it to professional managers. They expanded into rice, then into chewing gum when they bought Wrigley's in 2008 with a $4 billion loan from Warren Buffett, then into pet food, then into pet hospitals, Banfield, Blue Pearl, VCA, until they owned the largest network of veterinary clinics on Earth. Today, more than half of their fortune comes from pets, not candy. Most Americans do not know this. That, too, is the strategy. In July of 1999, Forrest Mars Sr. died in Florida at the age of 95. The company he built, the company that bore his family's name, the company that supplied chocolate to American soldiers in 2 world wars, that company refused to acknowledge his death. Mars Incorporated would not confirm he had ever worked there. For weeks, no one outside the family was sure he was dead. His 3 children inherited the empire equally. When Forrest Jr. died in 2016, his 4 daughters inherited his stake. Today, the 5th generation is being trained to take over. There are no public Mars billionaires on most lists, because the family rarely allows the lists to be accurate. John Mars lives quietly in a modest condominium. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 2015 for charitable work. Almost no one in America noticed. His brother lived on a ranch in Wyoming and ate dinner at the local diners in Sheridan. The locals knew him only as Forrest. Many of them did not know what his last name meant. Jacqueline still attends equestrian events in Virginia. In 2013, she was at the wheel of an SUV that crossed a median and killed an 86-year-old woman. She pleaded guilty to reckless driving, was fined $2,500, and her license was suspended for 6 months. The story did not stay in the news for long. The cocoa that goes into the chocolate is sourced, in part, from West Africa, where lawsuits filed by trafficked children allege forced labor in the supply chain. The cases drag through courts. The brands keep selling. There are roughly 140,000 people who work for the family. There are 6 factories on 6 continents. There are products from this one company in nearly every household in the developed world. And the family, the people who own all of it, you have walked past them. You did not know. The loudest fortunes are remembered. The quietest fortunes are eaten.